thank you for joining us for the final In Conversation With for this East Meets West series. What is East? So who am I? So my name is Laura O'Leary. I'm the assistant curator at Quad and the Format Festival. And this masterclass is organised by Quad, Format and Grain Photography Hub in Derby. So the East Meets West Masterclass is a development programme for emerging photographers across the UK to receive industry advice from professionals. So they have a series of masterclasses, portfolio reviews to develop their work. And their work was meant to be exhibited in a physical exhibition at Format Festival this year, but due to COVID-19, it's gone digital. And this is why we're speaking right now. Well, there's a fantastic exhibition, and we are kind of highlighting all these amazing photographers and artists on this course. And today I'm speaking with Mitchel Moreno. And so Mitchel, Moreno, you're in London, aren't you?
I'm not actually. I'm abroad. I'm in Italy at my boyfriend's. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's much nicer. Oh, very jealous. My sister's in Italy, and she's just sending me all these amazing photos of food. So jealous. But so let me introduce you. So Mitchel Moreno grew up in Leicester and studied at Cambridge University and the Royal Academy of Music. They then worked for a decade in theatre, opera and circus as a performer and director before shifting their practice to photography from 2017. Their work explores the construction of gender, the queer gaze, and the psychotherapeutic scope of the creative process. They support themselves by working as a builder and decorator. They were awarded the Photo Fusion Select Award in 2018, and their work has been published in the British Journal of Photography and Photo Monitor. Group shows include Encontros de Imagen in Braga, Photo LA, Portrait Salon at the Royal Photographic Society, and Photo North. East Meets West with Grain and Format, and the Taylor Wessing Photographic Portrait Prize at the National Portrait Society. They were recently selected as an exhibiting solo artist at the Copenhagen Photo Festival with their series Body Copy, which we will discuss later. So thank you so much for joining, Moreno. How are you doing today, aside from technical difficulties?
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. I've kept myself busy, so I didn't have time to get nervous about tonight.
That's good. I've just got nervous due to these tech issues, but I think we look good now, getting some good comments, so we can keep powering on. If it does just go really bad, just say in the comments, and we'll do our best to try and resolve it. But let's kick in. So. Moreno, I'm looking forward to talking about some of your projects today, but I wondered if we could start by you talking. I mean, as we've kind of said in your bio, you had a non-traditional route from going to the university program into the arts. So I wondered if you just talk a bit about your background and your journey into the arts.
Yeah, so I did an academic degree. I did a degree in English, and then I studied singing at a music conservatoire. And I went on to do a whole bunch of different things in theatre, opera, and circus, both as a performer and a director for 10 years or so. I had been introduced to photography at Sixth Form College, so I did an A-level in photography with a really, really amazing teacher called John Knowles. And it was a very profound experience for me because I'd been to a really rough secondary school. And when I got to Sixth Form, it was really, I think, the first time that I experienced teaching that wasn't about kind of being security guard in a borstal, but was about things like, nurturing and facilitating and valuing the students. And the photography teacher was particularly wonderful as a teacher and as a human being. And so I think my relationship with photography and my love for it is very wedded with this very profound experience of good teaching. And I think that stayed with me. I sort of often had a camera and I used photography in some of my stage work and films. tentative relationship with lens. And then a few years ago, about 5 years ago, I had a mental health crisis, and I stopped working. I couldn't work anymore, and it took me a long time to get better, about 2 years. And during that time, my boyfriend's dad had a camera, and I tried to help him use it because he was struggling with the technology. And he ended up giving me this camera because he didn't want to use it. And I started taking pictures. So I was still ill, and I would go out, and I started with street photography. And one of the really interesting things for me, and I think possibly for other people with similar kind of mood disorders, is that often you develop these very kind of misanthropic, negative thought patterns about people and public space. And going out with a camera really forced me to, if not see beauty in the world, at least look for order and rhythm and pattern. And it was, you know, after a very fallow period where I had stopped doing anything creative, going out with the camera kind of reignited that interest in kind of making sense of the world through something visual and interpretive. And then I started taking some pictures of people in my life, like friends and lovers, and I entered some of the very first photos that I took into the Taylor Wessing Prize at the National Portrait Gallery. This was in 2017. And I had 2 photos shortlisted and in the exhibition. And so I was really, really lucky, because right at the beginning when I started making photos, I had this like massive vindication and confidence boost. And that really, really encouraged me to pursue it. And, you know, I think without that, I don't know whether I would. And I certainly think that's a lesson for me, and something that, you know, I'd like to share, is that we sometimes have to be our own, we have to imagine that we have been selected. We have to believe that someone has recognised the value in our work, even if they haven't externally, because it's so random that we kind of have to manufacture that in the absence of a real competition win or a real selection, because it is very, very arbitrary. And it's terrible to think that people stop making their work because they don't have that external validation. But for me, it was really important at the time. And I was just, it was just brilliant timing.
Yeah. And yeah, as we just had a comment saying you've got to be your own cheerleader.
Yeah, that's brilliant. It's so true. Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you for that. And yeah, I think that's also a very good, it's really true. And I think through the Masterclass program, I think having that confidence and belief in your own work is something which is kind of self-affirming and means you can talk about it in a more confident way. And that's evident from, we had this conversation the other day, and I always said, I loved hearing kind of your kind of quick fire comments about your work and kind of how much you grasped all these conversations and really got the most out of things. So yeah, it's also, I think, having a kind of fervent curiosity and really kind of unpicking your work, and that might be a good time to maybe talk about some of your work. So we're going to talk about 2 projects and then a little about a new project. So I wondered if you could start by talking to us about a which began in 2017.
Yeah, so this was like, apart from the street stuff, this was the first work that I made, and it focuses on my family, so my family, and I think, you know, I think there are 2 key drivers to make the work. One is that I think visibility is a really powerful and fundamental component of identity politics, and just the very act, non-normative bodies, relationships, powerful tool against kind of marginalised. A lot of LGBTQ plus imagery is very kind of othering. It's very kind of often couched in a particular visual vocabulary. So, you know, I know that it's going to be an LGBTQ plus photograph just because of the colour, the style, the composition. And that is something that I really wanted to work against and find a way of sharing my family, my community with a much quieter and more reflective visual vocabulary, one that is really about domestic intimacy rather than about pride or drag queens or same-sex couples kissing or whatever. And then I know I said there's 2 drives, but I think there's a third, which is just how my new chosen family relates to my experience of my biological family. And I think that's probably where the work will get resolved in this more thoroughly interrogated relationship between the biological family album and the history of family photography and this new body of work.
Yeah, and I wouldn't actually discuss this, and why did you call it Abide?
Because it obviously means to sort of live, you know, where you reside, like abiding in your home. And then it has this other meaning of kind of endurance and forbearance, which I think is really relevant for a lot of queer people who have often been rejected by their biological families, have often been victims of violence, exclusion. And so, yeah, the need to abide and survive is, I think, a really common experience for my family.
Yeah, and this work is available to see on Moreno's website, and I mean they're described perfectly, obviously, but they're really tender, beautiful photos that are worth looking at. And I guess this body of work is, as you say, ongoing, whereas your recent work, Body Copy, that was selected for Copenhagen Photo Festival, is a more finished, like, well, not, I don't know if that's the right word, but it's kind of,
yeah.
How would you describe it?
Yeah, in terms of where I'm at in the process, or how would I describe the?
Yeah, maybe where you're at in the process, and then you can lead into what the body of work is about.
Yeah, so in terms of the process, it's really resolved. So I'm now beginning to show the work. I was due to have a physical exhibition at Copenhagen, which was didn't happen because of COVID, as a lot of things were cancelled. But I did a virtual show. I can't, I'm not in a position to announce it yet, but I think it's very likely that I'm going to have a UK solo show in a great venue at some point soon. So Body Copy I've been working on for about 18 months, and it's been what I've been doing, whenever I've had free time outside of work. I've made almost 30 images, and what I do is I trawl through dating and hookup apps online, and I take the titles of adverts that other people have posted, which are looking for something specific, a specific type of person or a specific act. And then I try to create like a kind of ideal response to what the advertiser has asked for. And I do everything in my flat. So most things are done with like a sort of 2 meter little backdrop, like in film, where I just paint a really small piece of set or hang wallpaper. And I buy like clothes from secondhand shops and get props off eBay and things. And I make the photo using a shutter release.
Yeah. And so these kind of, this is Moreno in these images, but the images of very specific characters, which are they seem very formed. You know, some of these characters I want to meet and I want to sit down with and talk to, and I want to ask them questions, and they all have.
Who, Laura? Who do you want to meet? Come on, tell me.
I want to meet the vegan one.
Yeah.
And the geek. So lovable.
Maybe not gay Nazi so much, right?
Yeah, no. But I think even so, all these characters have they're so human, and they're such they're such characters that have been created in your flat using these, you know, things that you bought kind of in the thrifty sort of way. But they're all, you know, they're really strong kind of studio style portraits. And yeah, I mean, and they all have captions, don't they? And the texts are directly taken from like these hookup sites.
Yeah.
So maybe like I think it's worth like maybe saying a few more kind of what these titles are, just to kind of give a more kind of visual identity to the work, kind of for people that haven't seen it. So can you think of any off the top of your head? Otherwise, I am.
Well, I've actually got. Do you want to have a look? Shall I? Yeah. So I've got my. This is my website. So this is free now for Posh Dom. Looking for a living doll. This is only Ultra Mask, which is a really prevalent like typology in gay culture. This idea of like a kind of stereotypical hyper masculinity. Any unconvincing cross-dresser / TV on here. Proper gay skinhead? Question mark. This is the fella you like. Happy autistic vegan, would like to meet similar. So that's that hopefully gives people an idea of the series. And there's loads of them. I mean, it just goes on forever.
Yeah, and so I think, you know, from a very simplistic kind of way of thinking, you're from a background kind of in theatre and performance, and there's such a believability to these characters. I mean, how do you kind of create these scenes that you then, you know, manifest in your flat, which is, you know, for me that just seems like, you know, the walls are different colours, the backdrops are different, there's bedspreads that have, you know, from like kind of sci-fi films, or there's, you know, big Nazi like flags. How do you kind of create these scenes and prepare for them?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've often got 2 or 3 ideas or more in my head of what I want to shoot next, and so I start looking to piece stuff together. And actually, some of the things are recycled, so some of the same objects recur in different pictures used in different ways. And then some things I have to make or get made. Quite a lot of things I have left over from jobs, like decorating materials. I have like wallpaper and paints and things I have left over from my work. I spend loads of time going around charity shops, junk shops, looking on eBay, just sort of waiting till I've assembled enough things to make it credible, really.
Yeah.
Some of them are really simple. Some of them are just like one top and a painted wall, you know, but some of them are more involved. And then obviously I'm like, you know, looking around what I can borrow from people. Like all the Lego in the Kinky Geek one is my boyfriend's Lego. So I was like, well, that's definitely the kind of geek that this geek is going to be. It's a Lego geek, right? Star Wars Lego geek. So yeah, sometimes it's just sort of, you know, what is around and accessible.
Such as an Alsatian, a Labrador.
Such as, this dog, exactly, The dogs have been the easiest things to borrow, actually, You just borrow and give it back. It's been good,
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's worth talking about the display in which you have planned for Copenhagen Photo Festival. It seemed like it was an essential part of quite like a civic space in Copenhagen. So could you just talk through kind of what you had in mind for that exhibition?
Yeah, so the festival site in Copenhagen is an old industrial site. And what they do is they have a big hangar where they display indoor work. And then they have some shipping containers where they, which are temporary, as a temporary exhibition space. And then in the kind of L shape that these two structures meet, there's a big flat outdoor space. And the curator was very keen to have an outdoor installation which could be both experienced at ground level and walked through, but also would be seen from the first floor of the building. So yeah, the concept was to do these 2-meter high, super large prints, freestanding. And then I was very keen to kind of resolve this in a more rigorous way around the idea of performativity and staging, in that these are all performed by me, but masculinities and are in themselves highly constructions. And so the concept for the show was that they would almost be like, huge monolithic actors standing on a stage. So there was this raised dais, and on the floor of the dais was going to be printed 1,000 adverts of from these hookup sites.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's something that you want to experience by obviously walking through. And there's a really great trailer for this work on Moreno's website, which I'd really recommend looking through. I think, now we can maybe move into a few more general questions. And this is a good time just to say that if you do have any questions that you'd like to ask, please use the comment section. So I think it's evident from your, the awards you've received, seeing your spread in BJP, talking of this mysterious exhibition that you floated to us, which, is exciting and well deserved. You have done really well in a really competitive industry, and that's no surprise to anybody. And yeah, your work is looking at kind of things like such as representations of the queer family, and I'm wondering, for anybody that is looking at similar subjects, have you got any advice that you could pass on to them of how to kind of start kind of bolstering their career?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I don't really know what I'm doing either. I mean, one of the great things about the East Meets West program has been to get plugged in to, professional networks and to meet people who are much more established, because it is very difficult to know how things work and how you get ahead. And I'm still kind of just stumbling through it. I'm not sure I'm massively well placed to give advice, but I mean, the advice that I do have is probably more general, just in terms of having worked in the arts in a different capacity. And I think, the key things I've learned are that good work takes a lot of time, and you shouldn't rush to get it out there and to try and get noticed and to try to be successful, whatever that means. I think there's a lot of pressure, particularly on younger artists now, to be really generative and sharing all the time on social media. And it's just not possible to have a high output and have a really, really high quality output. I don't think. I mean, there are some amazing people who can do it, but I think in general, you need time for work to develop and ferment, and for you to really understand where the project is going to resolve, because it's not always clear at the beginning. I think another key learning is don't compare yourself to other people. Don't be jealous, and don't be competitive with your peers or with yourself. Develop another job that you like and that you can live off, because you're not going to make money from your art enough to survive. It's highly, highly unlikely. And then when you start making really commercial choices about your craft, it goes in a completely different direction. And I think when things are difficult and you're not getting recognition, you're not being picked up, having a job that isn't horrible and isn't like below minimum wage is really good for the soul and just for how you can live. And I think the last thing I would say is just people give you work and opportunities. So like individuals. And yeah, you can apply to competitions and stuff, and okay, occasionally things might happen, but generally it's relationships that facilitate your growth as an artist and you being able to share the work. So foster relationships with people who you like and who like you, and don't worry too much about the people who don't like you or don't get your work, because you don't need everyone to like you or your work. You just need a couple of people. That's enough, you know. And also don't bother with people you don't like, because it's just horrible thinking that you're kind of playing a networking game. I think just like try and develop really sincere relationships with people with whom you have a mutual interest and affection.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for that. There's been a stream of people saying great advice, sound advice, excellent advice, brilliant advice, and I would echo that as well. We have had a question come in, so I will read it. It's from Joseph from the course, so Joseph Allen Keys. And he says, have you seen a difference in reaction between straight and queer people, communities that view body copy?
Yeah, good question. So I did the format portfolio reviews 2 weeks ago, and one of the reviewers was you know, clearly found it quite challenging, and it's very easy to forget that it can be an aspect of life, a way of presenting this social milieu or talking about gender, that it can be difficult for people. So yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I get quite complacent about it in a way, because for my peer group, this isn't provocative work, right? But I think it can be for some straight people, or people who haven't like been online or haven't got a Tinder account or whatever, you know. So I think it's not just about whether you're straight or gay or queer or whatever. I think it's also about whether you've dated or had sex using these apps, because I think if you have, then you immediately kind of get this world. So I think that's another distinction. It's not just along sexuality lines, it's also about your relationship with digital technologies and with the whole transactional discourse of online dating.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for answering that. And I guess we think we should probably shift into talking about your lockdown project. But I guess I just wanted to just pick up on something that you said that I guess I'm thinking about, which is we've talked about, you know, that you take your time with projects. You don't show everything at once to people. You kind of keep them close to your chest until you kind of got them to a place that you're ready to show them. And I guess I'm wondering, for people that are in a similar position, like, how do you know when you're ready, and when are you going to feel comfortable sharing, or, you know, how long do you wait to show these to people?
Yeah.
I've seen, for example, some of your other work, and it's just like incredible. So how does that like timeline work in your mind?
I don't know really. I mean, I think it really depends on the project, right? Because like with body copy, I knew, like, after I'd made a few images, I knew that it was an idea I was really committed to and felt confident about and wanted to pursue and wanted to share. So like I was showing people the body copy stuff like as soon as I made it, whereas, you know, another series like I think the work you're talking about, which, you know, I haven't got on my website, you know, I'm still really uncertain about that, and I see, you know, and I've been doing that work for like 2 years, but I still don't know what it's about, or how to resolve it, and so that's still fermenting. And similarly with the Abide stuff, like some of it I've shown and some of it I haven't. Like a lot of the collected photo albums and the collage and the relationship between my photos and my biological family album photographs. I haven't shown that because, you know, I just don't think it's sufficiently developed. So I think it's really dependent on the project.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so let's talk about some new stuff. You've been doing a project on the lockdown, which in itself is totally admirable, as it's such a mentally challenging time for people, especially to be creative. So could you just tell us a little about what you've been working on?
Yeah. So I was pretty much self-isolated for like 16 weeks on my own. My boyfriend was in Italy, I was in London, and I'd been reading a lot of neuroscience. And one of the really fascinating things is that making art or thinking, like high-level thinking about visual aesthetics, affects an area of the brain which is also very central to mood disorders, eating disorders, obsessive behaviour, things like that, all of which, you know, I kind of struggled with. And so I thought I would do art as therapy in a very, very direct way and use this lockdown time when I didn't have any work on and didn't have any social things going on to make some work. And I was, you know, obviously saturated by all of these visual like cliches of coronavirus, like PPE and loo roll and hoarding and not being able to go out and all those kinds of things. And so the series is a kind of lockdown diary of me on my own, processing these visual references and some of the particular experiences of the COVID crisis, but in a kind of slightly more abstracted, metaphorical, heightened way with a slightly kind of more refined language.
Yeah. And I've had the pleasure of seeing some of these images, and they're quite intense. Like, I haven't had a chance to talk to you about them yet, just because it's been a busy couple of days. But they're really incredible images. It's kind of, yeah, the use of color and kind of the thing, the kind of the what's within the images. It's all yeah.
Shall I show some so people know what we're talking about? I just put a few up.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. And so you made these, how did you make these? Like, how often?
I tried to do one a week, and sometimes I did 2 a week. Yeah. So there's about 20 pictures. Oh, that's it. I just got those 4 up. Yeah. But that gives you a sense, and they're all in that kind of territory.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like initially, how often you made them, I was like, oh, like 1 image. That doesn't seem like a lot. And I saw the scale of production. You know, thinking in terms of how there has been a lot of diary style kind of reflections of the lockdown and how they're kind of documentary style, whereas these are such kind of constructed narratives that, like, you know, this the image just showed of the blown up gloves, like that in itself. I was like, how have you done that by yourself?
I know. Well, that's the thing. It's not. Yeah, it's like when you work by yourself as well, and you're just using a shutter release all the time on your camera. It's really, really labour intensive because, you know, you're constantly going back and forth to see what you've taken and trying to find these tiny adjustments and frame yourself and so on. So yeah, it is like a process of inching towards it, really. So yeah, and I painted my wall. You know, I had to paint the wall red. Like that isn't. I don't live with that red, surprisingly, in my flat. So yeah, it's been quite slow, but yeah, and I'm just beginning to edit and see what works and what doesn't now. So
okay, amazing. Well, we'll start drawing to a close unless there's anything else that you'd like to add.
No, it's been great chatting. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, well, thank you. I would say, you know, this applies to everybody, that if you look through the archive and see, talking to Moreno, talking to everybody else, they're all everyone talks about their work in such amazing ways. So do reach out and do say hello if you've enjoyed this talk. It's you know, it's just well worth it. I've had some amazing conversations, people who have just struck a conversation with because I thought, oh, I want to talk to them more, so please do. And thank you to everybody as part of East Meets West 20. Thank you to Grain Photography Hub, Format Quad, of course, Arts Council England, for their generous support, for kind of making this possible. So, yeah.
I'd like to say that too. I'd like to say thank you very much to everyone involved in the masterclass. It's been a real privilege to be part of, so thank you.
Oh yeah, and it's been a privilege just to sit back and see everyone's development. And there is one final event, which is on the Grain organising its online photo cafe, and that's on the 9th of August. And it's bookable via East Meets West website, which is eastmeetswestphoto.co.uk. Brilliant website which gives you an overview of all the participants. And also, of course, thank you to Moreno. So yes, so you know, having lots of great comments here, brilliant hearing more about you, great advice, thank you, amazing work. Yeah, of course. And if you want to see more of Moreno's work, go on to www.mitchelmoreno.com, or it's @_Mitchel_Moreno on Instagram. And you get to see all the exciting new work that has been being made during this lockdown. But yeah, with that, I'm going to say goodbye and thank you so much for talking to us about your work today.
Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for watching. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.